This is Sway.
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 In the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Shake that fire.
Wake your fuck ass up. That crust out you.
It's First Aid with Kelly Kinkaid on Sway in the Morning.
All right, Sway in the Morning, Shade 45. Welcome to the show, First Aid with Kelly Kinkaid. Kelly Kinkaid is also a supervisor, producer here at Sway in the Morning, business partner as well. And you know, when we first started this show, she said, you know what, I didn't get a chance to make it to medical school, but, you know, I study medicine on different levels at home on my own. And, you know, I've had family members who have dealt with complications. And for that, man, we need to do a segment that's going to enlighten people, mind, body, spirit, and soul. And I said, okay, then why don't you do it, Kelly? You go to work. And that's what this is, First Aid with Kelly Kinkaid.
Yes. It's very important because we are well-balanced human beings, and we need to not only play with music, we need to know about how to live and keep our mind right, Sway. And, you know, today I'm looking forward to starting this segment. We asked Mike Muse to stay. You know, we're going to continue this conversation. I was actually emotionally disturbed when you all were doing segment talking when the anonymous officer called talking about the police. You know, Sway, we're scared in the United States, in our free country. Mm-hmm. People are dying, like selling cigarettes in front of a store, throwing their hands up, not having anything, and we're dying. We're getting murdered. And I wanted to continue the conversation with a police officer here today.
Well, we were talking about what Terrence Crutcher and as a result of his murder, what we are seeing develop. And then also we were talking about a conversation that was held last night when at a town hall type discussion, and one of the participants asked Donald Trump about what would he do to decrease the violence in urban neighborhoods, and Donald Trump said, hey, you know what? You know, paraphrasing, stop and frisk. Right. I would do stop and frisk. It was very successful in New York City, and we would have to do that on a national basis. We know that stop and frisk, that practice was ruled unconstitutional back in 2013. And since Mike Muse is here, it was eliminated. The crime rate in New York City has
decreased.
Okay. And so that's what triggered this conversation. And Mike Muse also telling us about an incident he had in Lower Manhattan where he was on a very busy block. Mm-hmm. Him and two other people of color and were the only ones of color there, and he was stopped.
Yes.
And asked to move.
To move and to keep quiet. We're making too much noise, and they want us to move along from the block.
Okay, so you invited somebody who's been on both sides of the law here today.
Absolutely. Today we have Corey Pegues. He's a former retired NYPD officer and also the author of a book called Once a Cop, The Street, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. And I found it interesting because, and good morning, Corey.
Corey, how you doing, man?
Good morning, Corey.
Thanks
Corey,
for having me.
Thanks
for having me.
It's a great book. You know, I found it interesting because Corey was born in New York, raised in Queens. You were down with the Supreme Team. The Supreme Team is the Supreme Team.
Yeah, the Supreme Team.
Yeah, you were on the dark side of life.
Yeah. Turned
your life around, became a police officer, and
well, what is the Supreme Team? I didn't grow up in New York.
Well, the Supreme Team was one of the most notorious drug conglomerates in the Northeast area. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they wrote, you know, Feds Magazine. They done movies, documentaries, and everything about those guys. So I did stuff on my own, and then I kind of like got promoted and went to the Supreme Team later on.
Mm-hmm. Right. And turned your life around.
Yes.
And while you were inside, on the blue side, you were under the administrations of Rudy Giuliani and Mayor Bloomberg. And I found it interesting because I'm sure that when you sit around and see what's going on now, you can relate because you were an officer when Sean Bell, people who are familiar, this was a world news item, Sean Bell, Abner Louima, and Diallo. Yeah. And, my first question is, what are your thoughts when you're seeing all this tragedy happen? It's like it's not stopping.
Well, my first thought, believe it or not, and, you know, it don't come off too good when I say this, people get a little upset, but my first thoughts is I'm not surprised. Here we go again. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's inevitable. These things happen. If you don't change the system, if we don't change the system, this stuff gonna keep happening. You know, a quick story. Like when I signed my book deal with Foundry, Peter McGuinn, I signed my deal. It was right when Eric Garner happened, and I was like, Peter, we gotta get this book out. Mm-hmm. And you know what he told me? He said, son, calm down. They're gonna be about 10 more unarmed black men killed before this book come out. It's a 2-year process. It'll take its course. I was offended
Right.
for about 3 seconds, and then I thought about it, and I said, wow, Peter was right. And here we are, 216. I signed this deal in 214, and it's over 10 unarmed black men and women that was killed in police custody.
Is the system changeable though? How do you change the system?
Well, you change any system, even Sirius Radio, you change it. It's top down. Leadership is top down. So, for instance, like I was the commanding officer of the 67th precinct, one of the most violent precincts in the city of New York. And the way I dressed my troops were, listen, you go out in my community, make sure you treat people with respect. Those 2 little letters, when I said those cops was like, wow, he's taking ownership of this community. They know I didn't live in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, but I was like, look, Commissioner Kelly put me here, and I'm going to make sure that we treat these people with respect. If you allow, it's like your kids. If you tell you got 5 kids, you say don't eat no cookies out the cookie jar. One might eat a cookie. Now what you gonna do?
Let me ask you this. So you were with the Dream Team. I know who they are.
The Supreme.
Excuse me, the Supreme Team. Okay, the Dream Team was in L.A. That was another. that was a music group. L.A. Dream Team. Don't get them confused.
Right.
Okay, I grew up in Oakland, so the Supreme Team. Real quick, for those who don't know, like who were the Supreme Team, like, and how big did it get?
Well, it got really big. I reference it in my book. Obviously, to protect identities, I only named 2 people, Supreme and his right-hand man, which was his nephew, the lieutenant, Prince. But everybody else, I didn't name. But, there's reports that we made upwards of like $250,000 a week. We was paying the police officers off, police getting $15,000 a week just to turn another eye, turn the other eye. So the money was coming hand over fist. You got to understand, this is the height of the crack era.
Yeah.
84, the beginning of 85, crack was coming hand over fist. The police weren't doing anything. The police were all corrupt. They was all getting paid off. It was just a mess, probably around America. I only could talk about my little space in New York City.
Yeah.
So the money was coming so fast, and nobody was doing anything about it. The drug dealers was getting paid. They was taking care of their family. Supreme would like buy turkeys for the whole. They say New Jack City is loosely based off the Supreme Team.
Okay.
He was buy turkeys for the community, Christmas toys, pay bills. This was honorable things that this major drug dealer was doing.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, we was like putting poison in people's bodies.
How was the relationship then with police officers? A lot of them, you guys knew they were being paid off, but in terms of, we were talking about Mike Muse had an incident where he was approached by police officers, and it escalated real quickly, and the police officer didn't handle it correctly. Even back then when you were on the streets, did you notice the dynamic between police officers and people of the community?
Oh, it was a lot different, when I was growing up. So it was this thing, like if the police told you to do something, you just did it.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have no conversation with the police. We're not talking. The police come on and say, get off the corner. We was getting off the corner. There was no stop, question, and frisk. They didn't even do that stuff. They would come. And usually back then, the job was really probably about 80% white Irish cops, and most of them was like big, like 6 feet and better. And so they came and they had those nightclubs or those billy clubs. They had them out. And it was a lot of respect. It was a give and take. We gave the respect when the cops came. Today, like everybody wanted like.
Was it fear or respect?
It was a little of both.
Okay.
It was a little of both because when they came on the block, they wasn't playing games. Like they would take that stick and crack in your head, and there was no cameras there. That's just what it was back then.
Yeah. How did you become converted from a life of crime to a life of law enforcement?
Well, December 12th, 1986, I had my son, Corey Jr., and I held him in my arms in Brookdale Hospital. And I said, what kind of hero am I going to be for this boy? Am I going to, my father left when I was in the 3rd grade, and I cried every day. And he didn't live no more than a mile or 2 away, but I never saw him once in a while. So I wanted to be there. I wanted to see him crawl, call me Dada, and do all of that good stuff. And that was the defining moment. And so he was born in December. And I went to the Army recruiter and asked the Army recruiter, how fast can you get me out of here? And I didn't tell anybody about this. So it took me about 8 months. And I left under the cover of the night one day, October 18th, 87. And I sold drugs all the way up to October 17th. Recruiter came and got me 4 a.m, put me in the back of the car. And I've been living straight ever since.
Did you have to answer to those people you rode with initially from the streets? How did you explain this to them, and how did that affect that relationship with the Supreme Team?
Yeah, well, the good thing is, one of the Supreme the guy who I used to work with, I actually was speaking to him the other day. We're still friends. He changed his life. He actually in the music business. And again, I don't want to say his name.
Okay, that's fine.
But it was easy for me because, like, you got to take these kids out of the environment. Like, I hate when we tell kids, like, get out of the gang, stop selling drugs. You don't give them something to do. I needed something to do. And I knew if I got out of the Army and left, I came back 3 years and 8 months. All my friends was dead in jail, or some of them changed their lives. But, you know, I go from a few $1,000s in my pocket a day to going to the Army making $600 a month, which, you know, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know what the math is on that, maybe $26 a day. But I was the happiest person in the world because no longer was I scared of the police coming to get me. My girlfriend set me up, dudes in the street trying to get me. So it was a relief. It was a monkey off my back. And so my friends actually, I have letters still that they used to write me from jail saying, yo, my name, they call me Life. Your life, you made it. We proud of you. So that's the relationship I had with my friends.
So when you came back out of the armed service and then joined the police force, and then you went to police, the same neighborhood you used to do crime in?
No, I didn't work. Like, once in a while, we would have what you call, like, a detail. Like, if somebody got shot, it was a controversial shooting, they had to send cops over there. Once in a while, I went over there. But I worked in environments sort of like mine.
Okay.
But not exactly where I lived at, which I always wanted to do, but it just didn't happen.
See, what I want to get across is that you've been in it from both sides.
Right.
So your knowledge is different from someone else's, you know, and you could give us nuances. And because we trying to understand, you brought up video cameras, especially in the case of, not every case, but Terrence Crutcher in particular, most recently, watching this man walk to his car with his hands up, and the next moment we see him dead.
Right.
And it's in front of our eyes. But the narrative that's coming out of the chief of police or these news cycles is, no, well, hold up, man.
Right.
This dude might have been high.
Right.
Let's take that into account, you know, or look at him. The dude looked like he might be a bad dude. Does that warrant him losing his life?
No, you know, Sway, like, I'm glad you brought that point up. And, like, all Black America wants is good policing in their communities. That's what we want. If they're black, yellow, brown, green, we don't care what color they are. Just come in our community, treat us with respect. Now, going back to that situation, like, these cops, if you put yourself on an island where you're going to be a cowboy, you're not behind no cover or anything, you almost locked into shooting somebody. Now, let's take that same scenario. She pulls up on the scene. We saw the video. She pulls
Officer
up on
Shelby.
the scene.
Yeah.
Officer Shelby pulls up on the scene. She gets behind the engine block of her car because she thinks this big black bad guy is getting ready to kill her. She gives clear and concise orders. Police don't move. Let me see your hands. Let me see your effing hands. However she got to say it. Let me see your hands. That buys you some time to let him do whatever. Now you see he's acting out on PCP or whatever you got. You call your boys. Listen, we got somebody. I think he's on PCP. Let's get emergency service over here. We need to take a controlled takedown. I'm not a genius. Like, I just said that right there. Don't that make a whole lot of sense to you?
Yeah.
But these cops, everyone wants to be the hero. They want to go right back out there. And I granted, like, you know, I was a cop 21 years. I don't know karate, no jujitsu. I don't know none of that stuff. So I never put I wouldn't even get close to you because the goal is to live to see another day. You can't keep seeing all these unarmed black men getting killed all around America, and we say that it's not a problem. And it just pisses America off because the police keep coming with this narrative. Before it was good, it was no video. But we watching video now. We're clearly watching video, and you're trying to tell us that we didn't see what we just saw in the video. So let's just say he was high on PCP. I don't care what he was high on. It didn't look like he was a threat at the time to anyone but himself. And actually, to me, it looked like he was opening his car door. Because if you close the frame the last frame where he's at the car, you could clearly see his right hand going for the doorknob. And we know it's not no gun now. So, like, we could take that right off the table. So what was the threat? He was at least 10 to 12 feet away. What was the physical threat? And then they're going to come with the police lingo. Oh, you could close a gap of 20 feet within 3 seconds. But he wasn't trying to close a gap.
Yeah, he was walking away.
He was walking away.
We got special guests.
Yes, Corey Pegues, retired NYP officer and author of Once a Cop, The Street, the Law, Two Worlds, One Man.
We're going to open up the phone lines, 888-742-3345. And since Corey has worked with a badge on his chest, I want to get his insight on procedure and what he feels could be done better from both sides of the fence, and then have Mike Buse share his story and see how Corey would have dealt with it as a police officer, and what information you could give to some of our citizens. 888-742-3345. Here's your Siri X.
First Aid with Kelly Kinkaid on Sway in the Morning.
Got an album coming out. Kelly got a special guest with us.
Yes, we have Corey Pegues, author of Once a Cop, and he is a former New York City police officer, and sharing some great information, Sway, for us and the citizens. You know, we've been talking about all the events that have been happening almost on a daily level of people getting shot, murdered, for no reason. And, you know, it was really important to bring someone here to talk about it, because for me personally, I want to know, how can I stay alive? Because we talk about all the men who have been murdered, but we still have the Sandra Blands of the world that happened, who, in my opinion, what did she do wrong? You know, and we need help. We need assistance, how to live, how to stay alive.
Right, and Corey, don't forget Corey Gaines out in Baltimore.
Right.
She had a little baby and they murdered her. And
the list goes on.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'm retired, you know, I'm out of school, but I feel like American police is giving me homework every day. Like I can stand here and rattle, because I'm an activist and I speak about this, I have to be drilled on this. I'm up to 2, 3 in the morning every night around America trying to read these cases, and it's really sad.
Corey, how do we stay alive? We have our hands up. We're abiding by what the police say, and we're still getting shot and killed. How can we stay alive? Do we just shut up? Like, what is it?
I'm glad you said that. So can I do a little plug? I'm speaking at a college today in Central New Jersey, Raritan Valley Community College at 4 o'clock. Make sure y'all go out there. I'm doing a presentation called Police Citizens Encounter. Basically what to do and stop by the police in the street, in the car, and in your home. I do this all over the place. And the main thing is, and you know, I get in trouble saying this, black people really don't want to hear this, but I'm going to drill it till I die. Comply, then we complain later. So if you really, really drill all of these situations down, Sway, you drill them down. And I catch heat with this, but I'm going to ask you, I'm telling you, this is the real deal. Comply. So let's look at Eric Garner. If he just turned around, put his hands behind his back, and I don't need feedback on this. If we look at even the Crutcher situation we just had, Terrence Crutcher, if he just got on his knees, laid on the ground. If we look at, you know, Sandra Bland is a different animal because, you know, she absolutely didn't do anything, and we still don't know what happened in that place.
Right.
But when you start really looking at these things, and I know for men, it's a pride thing. It's a pride thing. I know if I'm driving in a car with my wife and kids, and some 22-year-old snot-nosed rookie come up to me, he's cursing at me and saying all these things. Now I got a choice. Either I'm gonna be embarrassed either way, because I'm gonna get locked up, or I'm gonna comply, and then I gotta explain to my wife and kids why this thing went wrong. But for me, it's all about living to see another day. So you have to comply. We can't keep having these incidents. You can't go at the police. Yes, we got the First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech. You can say what you want to say. But what we're seeing on video, I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm a 21-year veteran. You should see me getting pulled over by the police. At the end of these scenarios, when I get pulled over, and I show them my ID, they're saying, why you didn't tell us a cop? You a cop. I'm like, I don't have no time to do that. Are we good? We're good? You know, I pull over. I drop off 4 windows down. If it's nighttime, I hit my dome lights. I take my left hand, put it out the window. My right hand, I put it on top of the steering wheel with the palm facing out so he can see. He know these 2 palms. I don't have anything. He asked me for my license, registration, insurance. I say, officer, my license is in my right rear pocket. May I reach for it? And then the second thing I say, if you're in New York City, is 2 cops. I'm not reaching until you tell your buddy over there that I'm about to reach into my pocket. And if he don't tell him, my hands are staying up. They got to drag me out the car. And why should we have to do that? Because that's just what it is. And you know, I get a lot of pushback on that, but I'm just going to tell you stuff to make sure you get home at night. And then you get the ACLU, you get the Reverend Al Sharp, you do all of that stuff later, but you're going to go home to kiss your babies. This poor man, Scott, was in a parking lot picking up his son, and he ends up dead. Suppose he had a book. I don't know if he had a gun.
Keith Lamont,
exactly,
Scott,
out in Orlando.
Was it?
Yeah, it was
Charlotte. Yeah. He's picking up his son.
Right. So we got to stop these interactions where we're like beefing with the cops. Even if they give you a wrong order, I'm stressing to you, audience, take the order. Turn your cell phone on, like Castillo's wife did in the car.
Yeah.
She had that cell phone on Facebook Live.
What did he do wrong though, Castillo? Because he ended up getting shot and killed anyway.
Right. Castillo didn't do anything. The only different thing I would have did in the Castillo case, if I was Castillo, because he did everything right. Officer, I'm armed with a loaded weapon. I would have never in my life reached for my license. That's the only thing, and I'm not blaming the victim. I'm not blaming them.
But see, what you're saying is based on knowledge you've learned by being a police officer,
right?
Being in the streets, being a police officer, and going through procedure. How was he supposed? I wouldn't have known not to reach in the glove department for my life. The first thing they say is, "Can I see your license and registration?"
Right. Well, that's why Lizzie and Sway, y'all gotta keep me out here in America. I gotta keep talking, because the more we get information out, like I'm talking right here in this audience, these 8 people or whatever it is in the room, you're gonna tell 15 people to show the numbers. We just gotta get the information. Just gotta keep being disseminated, because I understand people don't know, but I'm just telling you, announce everything. Don't make any further movements, because that Castillo case. This is my concern with the Castillo case. That guy is going to say, the cop is going to say, he never told him that he had a gun.
But I believe he did mention.
But now it's gonna go.
No, but he said I'm a licensed.
Is it on the video?
Yeah. He's not on the video, but he did. He's not on the video, but he
not on
did
the
let the
video.
officer know that he was carrying.
But it's not on the video. So you know.
It's gonna be
I'm
word-
just
it's
telling
gonna be
y'all
word
what,
of mouth,
that case is gonna go down to the female in the car and the cop. And the cop is going to say, he never told me that he had a gun. And the female is going to say, I did. And that's a credibility issue. I don't know what her background is. They're going to say, they're going to dirt her out. Oh, now, and you're going to have his, he's never had no complaint. He's a stellar person. He's in the church. I've seen this movie so many times.
So let's stick with the complying, right? So we're talking about the Castillo situation where he said, she said, fair,
right?
But the she say was that he informed the officer that he was carrying,
right?
Complying. Let's look at what happened in South Carolina with the officer at the gas station. The officer, the man got out of his pickup truck. The officer told the gentleman to go, I need to see your license and registration. He went to go get his license and registration. He was not irate. He was not emotional.
Nope.
He followed orders. What did the officer do? Split-second decision, shot him. Let's talk about compliance. Was compliance given to the young man in Cleveland? I can't remember the names accurately enough anymore. Tamir Rice in Cleveland. When the officers came up to the park, shot immediately within less than 5 seconds without even acknowledging the situation. Tamir didn't even get the chance to even comply.
That's right.
So then you look at what happened with Terrence Crutcher. Terrence Crutcher's father actually came out yesterday and said he's a reverend of a church. He said they actually talk about how to be compliant.
Right.
They actually talk about your hands up, which is what he said.
Exactly.
He also said that he's always told his son to make sure you keep your hands up and you put your hand on the car. So that was the action that we saw Terrence going. Remind you, if you're stopped in the middle of a street because your car is broken down, you're surrounded by 4 officers, helicopters looming, anybody as a human being, you're nervous. You're a little bit of emotional. So he's doing what he was remembered to told, embedded in him. Comply. Hands up, hands on the car. He still is shot. He's murdered. He's killed. So with compliance, when then, after we do all that, we see what happens when you do comply. When, officer, do we then begin to put the onus on the police? When do we put the onus on the police and departments for better training, better engagement with that? Because we are complying, we are doing it. And then on top of that, we see on the juxtaposition of it, we see what happens when a police officer engages with the white individual. A lot of us have seen what's gone viral with a gentleman who was in a fast food restaurant, a large gentleman, but his 2 officers, they wrestled with him. This the suspect socked him in his jaw, and they still allowed that suspect to walk out that fast food chain restaurant. We've seen 3 times in terrorist situations. In Colorado, he was allowed to be taken alive. We saw what happened in Boston. He was allowed to be taken alive. We keep seeing this consistently over where there is a discrepancy. New York City. We see a discrepancy, officers. I want to talk to you after we've complied. So now I've shown you when we've complied, we've been murdered. I then showed you what happens when the white individual community and the police officer, what happens with them. They're ought to leave alive. So after all that, when then do we begin to talk about police accountability to the police? That's the issue I feel we're having with this national conversation, is that police community does not want to acknowledge right? Once you then acknowledge that there is a problem, once you acknowledge that the police are not right 100% of the time,
Right.
then we can move the conversation. But if the police side of the fence keeps telling our community to comply, be complicit, and we do it and we see the result, when is it your responsibility?
Oh, I'm
as an
glad.
officer?
Listen, so the first thing I want to tell you is I'm rolling with you.
Yeah, he's retired.
You
Well, I'm
sound,
sorry,
you,
but
you know, I'm like your puppet. You
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
like you was my puppet. Like those are the things I say.
No,
But listen. So I'm glad you gave a lot of information out. So we can agree that we have an issue in America policing the black community, or just policing black people. Period. And it's almost like being an alcoholic. You got to raise your hand and say, my name is Corey Pegues. I'm an alcoholic. I need help. But policing, for whatever it is, they don't want to admit that there's a problem with policing in the black community. So I'm always preaching that the onus must be on the police officer. And you know why? Because in every one of these scenarios, who's the only one that got over $100,000 training? It wasn't Crutcher.
Yeah.
It's not Tamir Rice. It's not Eric Garner. So I'm with you. Now, but what you got to do with these cops, you got to hold their feet to the fire. Again, I know what move police officers when they see their buddies walking out with handcuffs or they see cops getting fired. That's how you change attitude. That's how you change behavior. That's how you move the department. You can't keep pacifying, putting them on paid leave. No, suspend them with no pay. I understand there's union law, so don't be mad that they put these guys on paid leave. That's just because of union laws. They do it. It's not like they're doing them a favor. It's contractual, so they go on paid leave. But they don't have to pay them. You can suspend them with no pay.
Yeah.
But they keep putting them on paid leave.
You know, and that wouldn't violate any union laws if they suspend them with pay?
No, in New York City, like NYPD, you can suspend them up to 30 days, and then the 31st day, you got to put them back on full duty.
So the onus needs to be on a police officer, even as individuals, right?
Exactly, and that's another piece. Well, you know, most of the municipalities, the cops are not paying out their pocket. If you change laws where the cop know he's going to be responsible for 50% of whatever the settlement is, guarantee you that's more change of behavior. So I just want to be clear on the compliant. I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to preach if we keep complying. I mean, there's nothing else we do. You know, I was speaking to a police expert yesterday, and he told me what he's going to start telling people now is to play dead. And I was like, wow.
Damn. Corey Pegues is here, author of the book Once a Cop, The Street, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. And you're also speaking today at 4 p.m. where?
Raritan Valley Community College in Central New Jersey.
We're going to open up the phone lines. I want to ask you about stop, question, frisk practices. 888-742-3345. Sway in the morning, Shade 45. We're in the middle of First Date with Kelly Kinkaid. We got special guest Corey Pegues is here with us, author of the book Once a Cop, The Street, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. And we're having this conversation. It's just this ongoing problem in our country. Is it black and white, or is it just police and community? Is it archaic practices and protocol that is a dysfunctional system? But all we know is there's some tragic incidents taking place where people are being killed in front of our very eyes. And Corey has worked the streets, and he's a retired police officer, and he's giving it to you straight as he knows it.
I was an executive. I was a commander. So I just want to be clear, because some people think I just was a cop. No, I was a commanding officer in the biggest police department in the country.
And that's New York City.
Yes, NYPD.
And Corey you've been a police officer, a commanding police officer of some of the biggest New York City cases that went global, like the Sean Bell, who was shot leaving his bachelor party out of a club and got shot multiple times, Abner Louima, Diallo. And these are big cases that the world had to look, and that was just the start. Like, it's getting bigger and bigger, and I thought it was great for you to come and talk about this, because we keep on saying we want to live. You know, you talk about comply and complain later, and myself and I know other listening people, we're frustrated. That makes me a little amped, like comply when there's a lot of, dickhead police officers who harass you, but you got to comply. But you're saying you want to live, so shut up, you know?
Well, you know, listen, again, I only could give the advice that I give my sons, I give my daughters. I just tell them, keep your mouth shut. Daddy, we got lawyers on deck. So you're going to keep your mouth shut, and I know it's going to hurt. And again, it hurts us that we have to. It's basically you have to succumb. So the issue, like you were saying, either we got to keep complying until the police change. It don't look like the police are changing. So what do we do if they're not changing what they're doing? Which I believe is all they have to do is a simple fix. Start holding these rogue police officers accountable in the form of locking their asses up or getting rid of them. Because we can agree that every cop is not fit to be a cop.
Right.
You know, every radio guy is, you know, I hear some of these
90%
guys.
of them are not.
Yeah, you know.
Shouldn't be on
So
radio.
in every profession, you have some bad apples.
Right.
So they need to go and drill through these police departments and get these bad apples, get rid of them.
I want to ask you a series of questions between all of us and the listeners who are. The phone lines are lit up from, you know, state troopers, police officers, to citizens. Stop, question, frisk. Break that down for us and tell us what do you think its effectiveness is.
All right. Stop, question, and frisk. So, you know, I was pre-stop, question, and frisk and post. So, you know, stop, question, and frisk actually is a great tool. And so I got to give you a good example so you know what stop, question, and frisk really is and how it should be used. Y'all remember the tennis star Blake that was tackled over in Midtown?
Yes.
Let's look at that scenario. There was a lady that walked up to the cops or a man and said, "That's the person over there that just robbed me." So this is a stop, question, and frisk. Forget the tackle. Got information that somebody just committed a crime. You walk up to the guy, you identify yourself, ask him for ID, or have him turn around, place him under arrest. That's a perfect stop, question, and frisk. You want the police to stop people, or there's somebody on a corner, it's 95 degrees outside, and they got a trench coat on, and they walking with one leg dragging. He probably have a shotgun on him, right? There's an expectation. You would want the police to stop that guy, question, and or frisk. You only go and touch somebody if you feel your safety is at danger. So people don't know that about stop, question, and frisk. It's not always the frisk part. You only frisk if you think that there's a gun or you know for sure. You see a bulge coming out of the side of their pants. You see them dragging their leg. You know, that's what a stop, question, and frisk is. But what it became in the NYPD was cops just running on 10 black guys on the corner, run up on the corner and throw everybody against the wall. That's not what it was intended to be. It just spiraled out of control. Even the numbers don't match. So when I was a cop, I think when we first did the stop, question, and frisk, like 93 when Bratton came in, we stopped maybe 18,000 people. They had a 20% decrease in crime. Fast forward to 2008 when they had like 800,000 stops. They only had a 2% decrease in crime. So the numbers, like nobody was looking at this saying, the numbers don't even work here. How could you stop 20,000 people and you have a 20% decrease? Now you're stopping over 500,000 people and you're getting 1%. That's nothing.
And since it was ruled unconstitutional in 2013, the numbers have shown
There's been a decrease.
that the crime has decreased even more.
And so what does that tell you? Stop, question, and frisk. It wasn't the do-all, be-all that they was pumping it out to be.
Okay, that's what our presidential candidate Donald Trump suggested that he would do on a national scale to try to decrease crime in urban communities.
And it makes you wonder who's advising him. He obviously don't have a police commander advising him.
We got Tim from Ohio on the line. Tim, what up, man? Tim.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, Tim? It's Sway, man. Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I know you got a killer question. Go ahead.
Well, no, basically it's more of a comment, you know, because I listen to you every day. I'm out here on the road, and I'm driving, and you know, I'm a traveling man, and I sit here, and it's like nobody's really addressing the real issues, you know, like the real issues of if this is not racial, if this is not, you know, against a group of people or a society, then why is it not happening to anybody else? You know, why is this not coming on to a group of Mexicans? You know, why are Mexicans not being held down with knees to their throats at gunpoint and everything like that? You're getting killed in the car with your girlfriend and your daughter. I mean, this isn't happening in any other culture.
No, it is.
You know,
Tim,
I mean,
Tim,
you know,
Tim, that is happening to Mexicans. That's I have to disagree with you on that one, Tim.
Okay,
I'm from California. Nah, dig Google.
Okay.
You'll find that. But Anybody want to take that question on? Why? Maybe the question is, why is it happening more to us than the other group of people?
That's actually an interesting frame of a question and how you said it. We see it consistently because of social media, and we see what's gone viral. So these are the videos that have gone viral. And then the flip side, you'll hear other comments saying that this happens to white Americans too as well, and that's why we should use a hashtag All Lives Matter. So then the comeback for that is, well, we haven't seen it go viral of incidents where there's been white-on-white interaction and it's gone wrong. Only thing we have seen is when it's been cop interaction with the white America, that it usually ends in the person walking away alive. Yeah, de-escalation.
Tim, thanks for your call, though. You're a citizen, man. We got we got a state trooper in South Georgia on the line. How you doing, Ford? Good morning.
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on, Sway? Because of you, man, a guy went by me speeding, and I let him go because I want to talk to you. How about that? How about that?
I'm looking out for the citizens, man.
Oh, yeah. So he got a break, but what my man is saying is absolutely true. I know it frustrates people when they got it, but just comply. And I know that hurts. My son, I'm going to give you a quick story right quick because I know. My son, I'm a state trooper. My son was harassed by a local cop. And I knew this cop, and I knew his attitude. But I knew he was a drinker. I knew on Saturday he liked to get, drunk with his buddies. So one day he was off duty driving in his pickup, and I was on duty. I knew that he'd been drinking. So to get back at his ass, I stopped him and whatnot. And guess what? He's no longer a cop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are good cops who want to take down other cops, but as my man know, they don't like that. When you go against others, I guess they, the wall of silence, I guess. We looked at it as, hey, that's not a good guy. But that stop and frisk thing, to me, it didn't work.
It didn't work. You say it did not work.
It did not work. When you look at the statistic, and a good friend of mine, a good friend of yours, Ray, Joe Madison was talking about that this morning. Mm-hmm. It didn't work.
It actually did not work. Well, I'll just give you a little pushback on that. It actually did work. So, it worked in the beginning, and then what happened is Giuliani was so numbers driven. See, when we was doing it in the beginning, remember New York City in the 80s, it was a mess. Mm-hmm. Graffiti everywhere, squeegee walkers. It was, prostitutes. It was a mess. We wasn't stopping anybody. We were a proactive department. Somebody got shot, we showed up, scooped the body up, put the tape. And then we started to stop, question, and frisk thing. Somebody jumped a turnstile. We actually stopped the person, and guess what? He was wanted for a homicide. He was a racist. So it worked in the beginning. I would say probably like the first 3 to 4 years, it was good. And then after that, it just... Everybody wants to decrease. It just went haywire.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Kelly, you brought up a good question about the what they call that when police have the silent code of blue what is it called?
Blue wall of silence.
Yeah,
blue wall of silence.
Since writing the book and you doing different interviews and you giving your real opinion, like how has your former police officers, how do they feel about that across the country?
So let me just be clear. I was speaking out before I wrote the book. Mm-hmm. You Google I retired in 2013. You'll see me on CNN in like 2006 or whatever, all in the newspaper. I was a part of the 100 Black Men in Law Enforcement who care was, Senator Eric Adams, Brooklyn Borough President. Right. So I've always been speaking out. Right now I got a $200 million lawsuit against the NYPD in Nassau County, because I went on Combat Jack. I don't know if I could say that. I went on his radio show.
I went on Backspin.
Oh yeah, he is on Backspin. Yeah. I did his show and I caught a lot of heat. But for me, it wasn't about. I never was a cop to be like. It wasn't about that. If I can't try to bridge the gap between the community and police, then for me, working it's for nothing. So I've always been proactive.
But cops aren't coming to. Not coming up front and saying, you know what, I was with my partner and my partner didn't follow procedure. And as a result, somebody is dead and that was wrong. Police officers aren't doing that.
They're not doing that, and that's what you're talking about. That's that blue wall of silence. And the blue wall of silence is basically, I'm my brother's keeper. We'll get our story straight. This is the way it's going to go. And so I employ...
corrupt.
That's corrupt. And I'm nationally on this national show telling all the good cops, because the silent majority... You got to speak up. If these cops start speaking up, I'm telling you, things will change. But everybody's concerned, you know, because everybody got a mortgage to pay.
Yeah, but cops in the streets daily asking citizens to snitch.
Exactly.
Or to speak up on crime or criminal activities.
And so, Sway, that's why police departments need to start. Think about this. Think about if they did a rewards program for cops that came out.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, you know, they was give a reward if a cop get in the shooting, they apprehend somebody. How about giving out a reward for a cop that snitched somebody out? Or give a reward to a cop that walked an old lady across the street. Like, they got to just do some different stuff. Try to, you know, give the good cops things that make them want to come out and speak on these issues.
So speaking of that, I think we're now in the position talking about procedures and trainings and cop coming back from the other side, aside from the whole stop-and-frisk scenario. Earlier, you used the word "my," and you talked about my community.
Right.
Treat this community with respect.
Exactly.
I think that comes from your understanding of being on the other side with the Supreme Team, understanding the neighborhood, understanding the behavioral patterns, understanding the slang, the lingo, the dress, the character patterns. Do you think that is a solution, right? Because we have to go beyond being complicit, because clearly we've already established today that we've seen juxtaposition of when both different types of blacks versus whites are complicit, the outcomes are very different. Exactly. So in order to address and be solution-oriented from complicity, is there something to do with training and development? And should there be officers trained or positioned in these communities that have an understanding of their neighborhood, to understand the isms of the people that they're serving, to understand the behavioral patterns, to understand when we walk, it's not so much of squaring up, but it's just a way of movement that's akin to our culture. It's a cultural thing.
All right, we talk with our hands.
Yeah, so should this be more part of cultural training as a solution? And then should cops be assigned based upon familiarity with neighborhoods, not having been born and raised in neighborhoods, because of the difficulty of that, but familiarity of patterns of that type of neighborhood.
I mean, you hitting it on the nose. I mean, you know, the president need to have you write the national agenda. You're hitting it all the stuff on the nose, exactly what I talk about. So, you know, when I was a cop, we had to go to a mosque for a dispute. I had a white partner. Go to the mosque. The imam said, you got to take your boots off. I took my boots off. You know, I got to go in here and do the job. And the white cop was like, I'm not taking my boots off. And me and him, you know, I sat there for 10 minutes and fought with this guy. I said, you see that pile of shoes over there? And you see the people sitting down praying? Those are the issues. Like, you can't walk in here. But he just didn't get it. Eventually, I talked him in to taking his boots off. But I know if we was at a temple, a Jewish temple, he would have did whatever the rabbi told him to do. Yeah. So you hit it on the nose. If you're not giving, like NYPD gives cultural awareness training, but you know what? It's not really the training. The training is good. I'm telling you, the training is good. It's when they get to the street. Yeah. Are they implementing the right training? Because if you put me in the Asian community, you send me downtown, Chinatown, I'm gonna probably have some real serious issues. Language, you know, I don't know how they move around. So they need to train me. If I'm gonna be in that Asian community, train me on how to deal with them, the customs and stuff like that. So you hit it on the nose. But a lot of the training is good. It's when they get out, they're not implementing it.
They're not implementing it. Corey Pegues is here. JJ is on the line for Louisiana, and he has such a cool question to me, and it's very basic and simple, Corey. And JJ, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How y'all doing? Morning show.
Good morning. Doing great.
Good morning.
Road Warrior.
You're a citizen.
Mike Muse, you spoke of the large white guy that was a biker guy. I saw that video. He beat those cops from inside that restaurant all the way outside and everything. And I understand what Corey already answered my question with the comply and everything. But Corey, when you got road cops out there that the first thing they do is reach for their gun. I also saw a video. I forgot if it was in Virginia or Maryland, but there was this white chick and a black cop. Both of them were trying to get this young black guy, he was in his early 20s, to comply, and the white chick was talking to him good. Well, they ended up fighting with him. The young dude knocked the black cop out, knocked the black dude out. He was asleep on the ground. And the white chick, she knuckled up with this guy and gave him a run for his money. I mean, he couldn't handle that white chick. But she was not scared of him. Most of these cops out here, first thing they do is look at a black guy and want to grab their pistol. How can, it's hard for us not to look at cops in a way that we got to worry about the bullet rather than the knuckles.
Well, let me tell you what, 95% of police work is what we call verbal judo. So if you don't know how to talk to somebody, you probably shouldn't be a cop. You probably should not be a cop because you can't shoot your way out. You can't shoot your way out. So if you don't know how to verbally talk to somebody, you should not be a cop So just think about this. You 19, 20 years old, Sway. You live in your mother's basement. You've been to college maybe 1 year. You got 20 credits or whatever. You decide to join the police department. You get 6 months training, maybe 9 months mic training. You graduate, they give you a gun and shield. They tell you go conquer the world. You're out there. Let's go. Your first job, you're in front of Sirius. You got the 6'5" white guy frothing at the mouth. He butt naked. You got to handle that. Your next job, you got domestic violence. That's violent. You never even had a relationship. But so all of these pressures are what cops got to deal with. So cat in a tree, calling the cop. Domestic, cop. Emotionally disturbed person, cop. So you got to wear all these hats. You can't shoot your way out. So you need to know how to talk to people. It's like the Eric Garner incident. That's me and my partner. I'm like this. Big man. Let's say I'm taking him.
Yeah.
Big man. You going. So there's 2 ways we could do this. If you could come with me and my partner, I won't even put cuffs on you. Give you a dignity because we out here. Sit in the back of the car. But when we get to the precinct, I got to cuff you. The sergeant can't see you come in without the cuffs on. And by the way, you like Burger King, McDonald's? We get you something to eat. Or I could call them boys. And you know what's going to happen when the team. Well, we saw what happened when the boys come. So it's all about verbal judo, talking to people. I'm not rolling around with Eric Garner, 6'5", 300 pounds. Remember, I don't know boxing. I don't know none of that. So all I have as a police for 21 years was my mouth. But like you said, I know the culture. Hey, I worked in Flatbush. I was commanding Flatbush. I had all the projects in East New York, Brownsville, Crown Heights. Yeah, I ran all of that. I was in Harlem.
Oh my God.
But you got to know how to talk to people.
Yeah, you got to know how to talk to people. You might have to come back, Corey.
Yeah.
I need you to come back. Corey Pegues, once a cop is
I want to be the Sway. I want to be the Sway in resident police expert.
Expert, okay.
For free.
Because there's a lot of, good thing you said for free. That made a big difference.
And also doing that seminar that you're doing today, I think that would be great. Maybe on Sway's Universe, our YouTube channel, maybe doing something in that matter and posting it.
Yeah. Where's the seminar at again?
Tonight we're at Raritan Valley Community College in Central New Jersey. Next month I'll be at Penn State. So we're moving around the country trying to get this knowledge out on what to do and stop out.
And then your social media is. People want to hit you directly because you got a lot of callers on the line.
My Twitter feed is going crazy. I see it. Please, my website is CoreyPegues.com. That's CoreyPegues. Twitter is CPegues. Facebook is my name, Corey Pegues. My Snapchat is CPegues9098. Please hit me up on all the social media.
And you spell Pegues, Pegues. All right, Corey, thank you for coming through, man.
Thank you, Corey.
All right,
great talking with you.
All right, up next.
It's Sway in the morning. Only
On Shade 45.